Ideological capture is a serious problem for all of us. We are drawn to ideology to make sense of the world, but when it has us in its grip, we become emotionally attached, and it becomes the filter through which we perceive reality. It divides us and leads to conflict, violence, suffering. What is the antidote to the poison of ideology? We tend to align ourselves with certain political, social, or cultural ideologies, such as secularism, socialism, liberalism, conservatism, and so on. There's nothing necessarily wrong with any of these, but we tend to over-identify with them, to the point where when they are criticized, we feel personally attacked. Sometimes we become so emotionally invested and identified with a particular worldview, we cannot think outside of it, to the point that we will not accept any evidence which contradicts that system of thought. This is sometimes called ideological capture. People will sometimes hold absurd views because they cannot let go of the belief system they are identified with. We also form groups around the identity and polarize against, demonize, and belittle other groups. If we are ideologically captured, even the most noble cause can become hijacked and turn poisonous. This is of course true of religion, and Buddhism is not immune. The Buddha compared his teaching to a snake, which, if grasped without the appropriate skill and care, will turn and bite us. The medicine becomes the poison. But Buddhism is perhaps less prone to such misuse. It has a built-in defense against ideological capture. After making the comparison with a snake, the Buddha compared his teaching to a raft to cross a river. The raft is simply a means to an end. When you have used the raft to get across the river, you do not keep carrying it around with you. You put it down. The implication being, you use the teachings as a means to an end, the end being attaining freedom, not as something to build your identity around. Later Buddhism took this concept and ran with it, especially in the perfection of wisdom literature, in which even cherished Buddhist doctrines are put to the sword in the service of ultimate truth. Texts such as the Diamond Cutter Sutra are unrelenting in their cutting through of ideology, using paradox to point us towards reality, which is ineffable, beyond concepts, where there is nothing for us to appropriate, nothing for our egos to identify with. This is not to say that all views, all ideologies are equal. Buddhism considers that some views and concepts point towards reality, some point away. We need to sharpen our thinking more and more, eventually cutting through all views, holding to nothing whatever, not even Buddhist teachings. Ultimately, Buddhism uses words and concepts to point to something beyond words and concepts. Buddhism is quite explicit in this area, which makes it incredibly valuable in the modern world, in which we seem increasingly trapped in ideologies which do not point beyond themselves, and which turns us against each other, a process which has been exacerbated by social media. We cling to our views for security. When the worldview we have built our life and identity around is challenged or even dismantled, it can be disorientating and frightening. A yawning chasm may open beneath us. By bravely facing this void and resisting the urge to grasp onto new, comforting beliefs, we create the possibility for a profound rebirth. Only by releasing ourselves from the grip of ideological capture can we hope to cultivate a world characterized by empathy, unity, and peace.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to support the creation of these videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon, or subscribe to the Guide to the Buddhist Path Substack for weekly essays and posts. Links below.